Support for Juneau Afternoon comes from Heritage Coffee Roasting Company, providing Juneau with locally roasted coffee for over 40 years, with cafes and drive-through locations throughout Juneau. More at heritagecoffee.com. From listener-supported KTOO, welcome to Juneau Afternoon, broadcasting live from the homelands of the Akwon. It's Wednesday, August 13th, 2025. I'm your host, Boston Christopher, Gwyneth Cheesh, Hawa, Tuksignusum, Salamat. Thank you for joining the conversation. You may also join us via our live stream on YouTube at ktoo.org/jpmlive or on KTOO's Instagram and Facebook pages. Coming up this hour, we have some live music with Mike Sibanda, a Marimba composer, arranger, and educator who is in Juneau this week for workshops and a live performance. We get our garden talk on with Darren Snyder and discuss what to do if your garden was affected by the Outburst flooding. Speaking of Outburst, we'll have the second episode of the new podcast from KTOO. How did we get here? And we begin today with the Juneau Commission on Sustainability, who will be hosting a Gold Creek Power Plant and Flume tour next Wednesday, August 20th from 5 to 7 p.m. You'll get the opportunity to visit the Gold Creek Power Plant and learn about current systems, unique Sustainable Juneau to events in this Invisible Infrastructure series. And here to talk more about that, I have in the studio with me Marion Call and Griffin Plush, who are co-chairs of the Juneau Commission on Sustainability. Gwyneth Cheesh, Haigadi, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to have you here, Griffin. Welcome.
Thanks. Happy to be here.
Awesome. And of course, Gwyneth Cheesh to you, Marion. Wasiiti, how are you?
Gwyneth Cheesh. It's very good to be here with you, Boston. I'm feeling great. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, so it's so interesting we're talking about sustainability, especially with glacial outburst flooding having just happened this morning, and all of that good stuff. But first, let's just set the table here, Marion. Remind us what the Juneau Commission on Sustainability is and does.
The Juneau Commission on Sustainability is a city commission. It's a volunteer commission, and it serves the city borough of Juneau. And this is just a bunch of ordinary citizens who care about sustainability. Some of them have expertise in fields like biology or in natural sciences. Some have worked with various departments at the state or city. And some of us are songwriters, so, anybody can join. And
Songwriters who care.
Songwriters who care. That's the only criteria, really, right, is caring about sustainability in Juneau on every front. So we talk about food security, we talk about energy, we talk about emissions, we talk about things like climate impacts, such as the glacial outburst. And all in all, we try to keep the city accountable to keep moving in the direction that Juneau citizens want on sustainability. We make sure that it's part of the municipal planning process and considered in every aspect of, for example, new vehicle purchases or new building projects, right? We just kind of poke on the city a little bit. We poke on the assembly to pursue grants and to pursue projects in a more sustainable way. So anyone can participate, and I'm lucky to be serving right now with Griffin. Griffin, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I mean, you did a really good job kind of summarizing our work, and of course, you know it better, having spent a lot of time doing some of this outreach work too. And I would just add, I think in addition to poking, and pushing along efforts that improve sustainability from all these different angles. Something that, I think is important is having really productive conversations about things that we might not necessarily consider. There are a lot of things that really do impact the sustainability of our community. There are a lot of things that are out there and really hot topics and people spend a lot of time talking about. But our infrastructure in particular is something that is incredibly important for the sustainability of our community. It's expensive often, and but when it fails, it can have big consequences. And also when it has a large economic burden on our community, we see that as a big burden for our entire economy. And so I think not to say either of those things are the case or have happened necessarily in Juneau, but it's something we see as a pattern around the world when infrastructure is ignored, right? When people don't pay attention to critical infrastructure like the electric grid, like our water and sewer system, like our solid waste systems, then we can see really big consequences for the long-term sustainability of communities.
Well, that leads perfectly into the Invisible Infrastructure series. So how did this series come about?
Well, one thing that the Juneau Commission on Sustainability does, and we call ourselves JCOS for short, so if I say that, that's what I mean. One thing that JCOS does is hold various community events about sustainability issues, and these are kind of chances for either the city or our local experts to explain things to the community and for the community to ask questions. So we have done all kinds of topics from like cruise ship impacts to bears and garbage to, various kind of lunch and learn kind of stuff, right? And this series, I think, Griffin, was that your name for it, Invisible Infrastructure?
Yeah. It's something that I think we saw an opportunity to get outside, I think, for the summer, right, which was part of it. We often do our sessions, in the various libraries, their presentations. And I used to work as a park ranger doing guided hikes and stuff. And I really enjoy getting out and actually seeing something. I think it's really important in order to learn about something for myself and for others to see it. And so, it was an opportunity that I saw in a kind of a framing for how we could do our outreach sessions for this summer. And it's something that I hope we can do more because, again, it's something that simply doesn't get a lot of attention.
Yeah, so this includes a hike on the Flume Trail. Easy hike, but we get to walk the Flume Trail. We get to spend time outdoors or maybe a little more indoors in case of rain, but it's a wear your walking shoes and bring an umbrella if necessary infrastructure trip to see the power plant and walk the Flume and understand where a lot of Juneau's energy comes from and have folks from AEL&P there to talk to us about, here's what this does, here's why it's important, here's how we maintain it, here's what's going to happen next if we do this or that, right? That's it's exciting to actually, it feels like those segments on Mr. Rogers when they would take you inside a factory or something and just show you here's how stuff works. I love the chance to get to do that. And you already did this, right, at Recycle Works?
Yeah, we had a few folks join us at Recycle Works and Household Hazardous Waste last month, which was really great getting to hear from city staff that have been involved with the city's limited role with solid waste. We don't own our own solid waste utility, but we do have a few roles that the city plays with the recycling drop-off center with household hazardous waste, and it was an interesting opportunity to learn about some of how we could prepare for the flood. If there was going to be disaster debris, it's something that the city solid waste folks have helped with in the past, and it's just interesting to hear about those kind of opportunities.
Go ahead. I was going to say, if you're just joining us, you're listening to Juneau Afternoon. We're talking about the Invisible Infrastructure series from the Juneau Commission on Sustainability, which is going to be having a tour of Gold Creek Power Plant and a walk on the Flume. This is next Wednesday, August 20th from 5 to 7. The best place to find information is facebook.com/sustainablejuneau. Why? So this is the second one in the series, and I hope, as Griffin says, it's going to be an ongoing series. You're going to pick different places around town and invite the public in. And you told us a little bit, Marion, about why the Gold Creek Power Plant. What is it about it, or what is it that you know already about it that you think the public might discover on this tour?
Well, I think one of the things that Juneau one of the reasons I love living in Juneau is that we're so largely hydropowered, that I as a person care to reduce my carbon footprint as much as I can, especially because unfortunately we have to fly often being here. I'm trying to look for as many ways as I can to reduce my footprint and have sustainable long-term power no matter what other interruptions might happen. Hydro is exciting for that, and we have the opportunity to do it without keeping any salmon from going upstream because our mountains are so steep, right? So learning about our hydro infrastructure as well as what the future of that infrastructure is, because we are already at a point where, because we're bringing more electric vehicles online, because we're talking about electrifying the cruise ship docks, that would be a huge boon for us as far as less waste in the air, fewer emissions, and less reliance on outside fossil fuels being barged in, which is also, again, takes more fossil fuels to barge them here, right? What does that future look like? How do we prepare for it? For example, one thing I learned is that buying the transformer that the city's going to need to electrify the cruise ship docks is a multi-year process, because so many other places around the world are also trying to go through that process at the same time, right? So approving the location and finding that one transformer so that we can send power to the ships, right? That's significant. So is bringing more power online to those ships. And so learning about what we have and what we'll need, I think, is something that affects every person in Juneau. And it's good to just like have a friendly walk and talk about it, as opposed to waiting until we hit any sort of crisis point, right?
Yeah, and just to put a finer point on it, right, we have cheap electricity and relatively expensive fuel in Juneau. We have a huge opportunity with electrification. Basically anything that we can electrify. We have that environmental benefit, yes, but that economic benefit, that benefit of not being reliant necessarily on the next barge, if a barge were delayed, that's huge for our community. But there are challenges to getting there too. So yeah, we're really grateful to have the opportunity with some ELMP staff, some engineers, and some of the leadership there to do this walk. I think that this series, where we want to go with it. So we had solid waste, where which is a really big sustainability issue for our community. We had electricity. Now we're looking at our water and wastewater system later in next month, later September. We want to keep doing this. I think is just a trial run, because I think having these conversations is really important. And again, seeing these opportunities and the challenges to making sure our infrastructure is sustainable and supports a sustainable community.
So next month we're actually going to offer a tour of the municipal wastewater plant, and I'm so excited about that. I can't even tell you, I know that makes me a super nerd, but also I am so interested to know how it works, and to talk about why we don't pour oil down the drain, why we keep fats, oils, and grease out of the drain, why you don't flush so-called flushable wipes, right? Everybody remember that. Good says PSA. It's flushable. It's not true. Don't. As you'll find out if you come and go on some of these tours, actually get to go see these places, Mr. Rogers style. So it's next Wednesday, 5 to 7, happy hour. Join us for a walk and a hike and some learning. It's
a great way to learn about your city and how it works, because a lot of times we just live in our place and we don't know how things do that. So it's the Juneau Commission on Sustainability, best place to find out more information and keep track of future invisible infrastructure walks. If you can't make next Wednesday, is to go to facebook.com/sustainablejuneau. Griffin Plush, Marion Call, I really appreciate you both being here today and telling us about this. And we gave people a lot of lead time, so we can make plans for next Wednesday at 5 p.m. Really appreciate you being here. Ganesh.
Thanks.
Thank you, Ganesh.
This is Juneau Afternoon. Up next, we are going to listen to an Outburst, the new podcast from the KTOO newsroom that takes you from the floodwaters to the glacier's edge to uncover why the annual floods happen, how they got out of control, and what could be done to keep Juneau safe. This is episode 2, How We Got Here. You are listening to Juneau Afternoon on KTOO.
Thousands of years ago, scientists say the Mendenhall Glacier reached the ocean. About 250 years ago, Mendenhall Lake and some valley neighborhoods, Back Loop and Dredge Lakes, were still covered in a thick sheet of glacial ice. Now, the glacier is a small fraction of that size, and thousands of people live beneath it. The ice is shrinking fast.
Right there at the cabin base.
I'm on a research helicopter with Jason Amundsen, a glaciologist at the University of Alaska Southeast. We land on the glacier, just a quarter mile from where massive chunks of ice crash into Suicide Basin. It's a slurry of water, icebergs, and silver silt rising between jagged peaks. And it's the source of Juneau's annual glacial outburst flood.
The first year I was up here, we had a GPS receiver on the ice in the basin. You could just walk out there.
That was more than a dozen years ago. What was once solid ice is now an immense pool. Think 24,000 Olympic swimming pools worth of water. It's about as wide as 4 cruise ships lined up end to end. and it plunges about 1,300 feet deep. That's nearly as deep as Lake Superior, the deepest of the Great Lakes. And as Suicide Basin has gotten bigger, so have the glacial outburst floods. Climate change has sharpened the risk of glacial outburst floods. In recent years, their size has increased as the glacier has melted more rapidly. Scientists today are trying to figure out how big the floods can get. David Poloshenski treks to a narrow ridge of ice. He's a postdoctoral researcher with the University of Alaska Southeast, and he's here to pilot a drone over Suicide Basin.
And so over time, this calving front that we're standing on Mendenhall Glacier has slowly retreated towards us.
The drone zips along a preset path, taking thousands of pictures that he will stitch together into a high-resolution image. A series of these images will tell researchers how much Suicide Basin has grown and help them estimate how much water it can hold. That information is crucial for assessing the threat to the Mendenhall Valley, where an estimated 12,000 people live.
Any engineered solution is going to need to know how big could Suicide Basin get. And its current size, double its current size, triple its current size. We need to know how much water we'll be dealing with.
Glacial outburst floods are not uncommon in Alaska or in other places with glaciers around the globe. They're just not happening where lots of people live in the United States, except here in Juneau. Hundreds of people in Juneau's Mendenhall Valley are living on the front line of a climate change disaster they didn't see coming. From KTOO Public Media, this is Outburst, the story of how a freezing cold disaster has escalated faster than human imagination and public policies to protect people. I'm your host, Alex Solomon, climate and environment reporter at KTOO in Juneau. This is episode 2, How We Got Here. The glacier's retreat revealed Mendenhall Valley. Many years later, people started farming here. Some of the earliest written accounts of flooding are from them, but it wasn't understood to be glacial outburst flooding back then. About 7 miles downstream from Suicide Basin, Marion Hobbs sits at Grumpy's Deli in Mendenhall Mall and remembers a flood from the early 1960s. He was a kid when it happened. He sketches a map of his childhood home near Mendenhall Lake and points to a square next to the river.
We used to have an outhouse right here. We couldn't get to it. It was flooded. But I remember the water coming.
He says water rose within 60 or 70 feet of his family's cabin, where Marion Drive is now. The street is named after him. Hobbs points to his mom's entry in a book called Gastineau Channel Memories, a collection of family histories put together by Juneau residents. In it, she wrote that pockets of water near the face of the glacier broke loose, releasing the flood.
There was only 7 houses in the whole west side of the Mendenhall Valley at this time. Mendenhaven or nothing existed.
Back then, he says the valley was made up of a handful of homesteads. Cattle grazed pastures beside the river. After that flood, Hobbs remembers going down to their fields of oats and barley.
And my dad was really upset because all the crops we had planted were just laid flat. The ground was just covered with nothing but silt from the river. Everything was just gray and wasted.
An official record of glacial outburst floods on the Mendenhall began in 2011, when scientists had enough information to identify the source. But before then, there were years with seemingly random floods. Enough of them that the city had identified a flood problem that threatened future development and asked the federal government to look into it. In the early 1970s, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers logged a few floods from the early to mid-1900s that hit the valley before there were river gauges. They hadn't identified the cause yet. But the report had a serious finding. It said, if these floods occurred today, there would be substantial damage because of increased development in the area. Even by the late 1990s, scientists hadn't figured out that a glacial outburst could be the source of the floods. But there were some clues.
I wasn't even really considering glacier outburst floods on the Mendenhall, except that maybe they've happened in the past.
That's Ed Neal. He was a hydrologist with the U.S. Geological Survey then and authored a report of the Mendenhall River in 1999 that laid out possible flood scenarios. In it, he didn't predict floods as large as the community has experienced over the last couple of years. But he remembers researching a flood from an earlier USGS report that happened late in the summer of 1961, around the time Hobbs remembers one. It was estimated to have been a bit bigger than the devastating flood of 2023. He says there wasn't enough rainfall at the time to explain it.
I thought, oh, maybe that had a different source, but it never reoccurred.
Neil knew about glacial outburst floods and that they usually reoccur. So the 1961 flood seemed like an anomaly to him. And because there was no data to verify how big it was, he didn't feed it into the model projecting future floods. But now, researchers suspect that early flood could have been a glacial outburst. Hindsight is 2020. Over just a couple of decades, scientists in Juneau went from being unsure whether glacial lake outbursts caused the Mendenhall Valley to flood to studying it closely under the watchful eyes of the public. Just ask Aaron Jacobs, a senior hydrologist at the National Weather Service.
So it seems like we need impactful events for the university and the scientists to get our funding so we can do this work so then we can prepare better in the future.
He says the first time researchers got funding to study the size of Suicide Basin was after the 12-foot flood in 2016, the record at the time. But they could only get a partial picture then. That's because Suicide Basin did what's called a partial release. It didn't completely empty out. They finally got the chance to measure the full volume of the basin just 2 years ago, when it emptied after again. And they're to predict the distance.
We're going to move this a little bit so that it doesn't fall into this crack.
That's Amundsen again, the glaciologist. He hauls a high-precision GPS antenna out of the ice. A deep blue fracture appeared inches from where the researchers installed it a few weeks ago. Right now, the rapidly melting glacier means bigger floods, but in the future, it could mean smaller ones. Amundsen is measuring how quickly the glacier flows into Suicide Basin by lodging the GPS into the ice and tracing how it moves over time. He uses a contraption called a steam drill to reinstall the GPS on a safer patch of ice.
It is basically a pressure cooker, so we've got a little propane canister connected to if I open this up, it would look like
It heats up like a camp stove and sends steam through a long hose that he uses to melt a small hole about 15 feet straight down into the ice. Aluminum poles go into the melt holes, freeze into place, and hold a small wooden platform with the GPS attached. Nearby, the scientists track how fast the glacier is thinning by measuring a long pink wire they fed deep into the ice earlier this summer.
So in the last month, there's been something like a meter or 3 feet of melt that happens, which is pretty typical this time of year.
It's no surprise that the ice is melting fast, and even faster in the heat of summer. The top layer looks like crushed ice cubes dumped from a drink cooler. It's an uneven landscape of steep ridges and miniature valleys. Stunning blue rivulets carve channels into the surface that disappear into dark crevasses. As humans pump greenhouse gases into the atmosphere, the planet is heating up, and it's not baking evenly. Alaska is warming at least twice as fast as the rest of the United States. The Mendenhall is one of more than 1,000 glaciers fed by the Juneau Icefield, a rapidly liquefying ice plateau about the size of Rhode Island that caps the coast range straddling the border between Southeast Alaska and British Columbia. Glaciologists think that eventually, Suicide Basin won't be a problem for the hundreds of people living downstream anymore. Either the glacier thins so much that the ice dam can't hold enough water to unleash a catastrophic flood, or it retreats so much that there is no ice dam. The researchers are trying to predict when this danger will melt away, and if, years down the line, other pools farther up the glacier could release significant floods. So far, they have identified at least one that looks like Suicide Basin's sister. They don't know much about it yet, but they plan to study it over the next few years to understand if it's a threat. That information will help federal engineers understand the options for a long-term plan to protect the community from flooding. In the next episode, we'll ask, who is responsible for keeping Mendenhall Valley safe? And how?
Okay, and try not to laugh, because people legitimately have asked this question. People have asked the question, right? Could you bomb the glacier?
And the Corps initially said, when I went to them, said, well, Senator, we're going to work on this. We think it'll be 10 years to study and fix this. Say what? That is the wrong answer.
In Juneau, I'm Alex Solomon, climate and environment reporter at KTOO. This series was the brainchild of Anna Canny and was funded by the Alaska Center for Excellence in Journalism. I wrote this episode. Claire Strempel, Adeline Baxter, and Lisa Fu edited it. Dave Waldron is the audio engineer. The theme music is by James Crawford and Vance Westlake.
That is Outburst, the new podcast from KTOO. You can hear future episodes at ktoo.org/outburst. And Jonathan in the chat on our live stream asked me, is there a live stream of the flood? And actually there is. You can go to ktoo.org/flood. They still have the cameras up. There's a bunch of different cameras all over the place that you can see from the glacier, from the river, from where the bridges are. There's just a lot of cameras there. The team did amazing work on that all night. They stayed here all night, I heard, to make that happen. So catch that podcast, and you can catch that information at ktoo.org/flood for all the updates, including that live video. This is Juneau Afternoon from KTOO. We'll be right back with Mike Sibanda.
Support from Hanson Gress, seeking curious people who like technology, network engineering, and customer support. Opportunities for those who thrive on problem solving. Details at hansongress.com/careers.
Support for Juneau Afternoon comes from Alaska Airlines Club 49. Membership information available at club49hub.com. You're listening to community-supported Juneau Afternoon on KTOO, 104.3 Juneau, 91.7 Juneau Auk Bay, and online at ktoo.org. I'm your host, Boston Christopher. You can also tune in to our live stream on YouTube, Instagram, or Facebook. Just check out those pages from KTOO. Mike Sibanda is a Zimbabwean-born marimba composer, arranger, performer, and educator, known for teaching and directing African marimba ensembles internationally. And internationally means Juneau as well, which is kind of cool. And I welcome Mike to the studio. Gunachish Wasiati. How are you today, Mike? Lean forward for me on the microphone there.
I'm good, thank you. I'm so glad to be back in Juneau.
Yeah,
I'm so glad I brought some sun to you guys. I hear you've been having lots of rain.
It was a pretty rainy summer, yeah.
So,
yeah. Well, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. And also joining me today is Betsy Sims, who is the organizer of Njuzu Marimbas here in Juneau. And workshop for no charge. Donations are going to be happening this weekend, Saturday and Sunday from 2 to 4 p.m. And then as well as next Tuesday and Wednesday at 5. So there's 4 chances for the community to step out and learn a little bit of marimbas from Mike. We're going to hear them in a little bit here. But Betsy, people can come more than once, right?
Yeah, it's two-day workshops.
So you have to participate in both days.
You don't have to, but Saturday and Sunday are going to be one workshop. If people wanted to come only one day, I would suggest just coming the first day.
Okay.
Because it'll be building onto, the second day will be building on what
we learned the first day. Okay.
And the same with Tuesday and Wednesday. If you can only come Tuesday, great. But hopefully they can come Tuesday and Wednesday, and that's even better. But just showing up for the second day would be hard.
Okay, and then if you don't want to actually participate in the workshop, but just want to see Mike play, there is a private house concert this Friday night. To get on that exclusive list, you have to email Betsy at juneaumarimbas@gmail.com, and she'll set you up with the time and the place and put you on the list. So if you're interested in attending that on Friday night, do that soon because the house ain't that big.
Yeah, that'll be at 6:30 on Friday. But for interested in the workshops or the concert, contact me and I'll get more information too. Anybody who's interested.
Yeah, juneaumarimbas@gmail.com. Okay, Mike, so welcome back. I know you were here in 2023, and it was fantastic. And I'm sure people are so happy to have you back. And I know that you also, tell me a little bit about your day job, because I know you also do some teaching.
Yes. I'm actually based at St. Stephen's College. That is in Johannesburg, South Africa. It is like a campus with 5 schools in one, prep schools and high schools. So I sort of direct a Marimba African music program.
Wow.
Where I teach at all the schools. They come to me for some African music, and I really enjoy that job. Yeah.
That's really awesome. I want to get into why education and all that here too, but I also want to know, or I want you to, we can shout out your son who's listening in Johannesburg right now at like 1 o'clock in the morning.
I know, right? Shout out to my son, Mike Jr. Tafadzwa.
Good.
Yeah.
That's so nice. So you were born in Zimbabwe.
Yes.
And was the marimba, was it a part, I mean, were you doing it at like 2 years old? How did it start for you?
Actually, I started playing marimba at college.
Okay. Oh,
but
college.
We grew up at a college. My father used to work at the college, and the music college was based at that college, so we could hear marimba in the morning and everywhere. Went to primary school, went to high school, and then I decided, no, I'm going to take up music. And obviously my parents weren't impressed about that, but I then said, no, I'm going to be a teacher. But then music teacher.
You did the way out by saying, hey, I still will have a job, but I'm also love the marimba. What was it about it when you first started playing it that sort of captured your imagination?
I mean, that's just the sound, the buzz from the marimba, and then what you can do, the creativity. You start playing and, you start creating stuff on your own. I mean, it really pushes you to improvise. So that's what really got me. It can make you are able to express yourself on the marimba. I think that's what really made me fall in love with it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because I feel like some people would imagine that it seems like a simple instrument, right? But it's very complicated. And I know if people have seen in Juzu marimbas here in town, you have all the different sizes of marimbas. You've got that giant one, and you got different sizes, and they all make different sounds. And then I guess I'm imagining like when you get multiple people together to play, the cohesion and the different things that people are doing to make the overall music, right? I mean, is that when you're thinking about when you're composing music?
Oh yes, I mean it's all about bringing people together.
Yeah,
it's the harmony. You have to. Each one has got an important role to play. Whether you are playing, basic notes, and the other one is playing more complicated notes. But when all that comes together, that harmony that it produces is magic.
Oh, that's so interesting because I can imagine, for me, what I remember is, a lot of kids when I was younger, we would play the little one, like a little xylophone or whatever it was that you'd get as a toy.
Yeah.
And you would just play those simple notes on there and you'd learn how to play a little something, Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star or something like that. But these compositions, how do you begin to think about composing something on the marimba?
Well, I mean, it just depends on the mood you are in. Sometimes I'm feeling so happy and I pick up my mallets and just start playing. And with the marimba, you are playing basically polyrhythms sometimes. And out of those polyrhythms, there's some melody that comes out of there. And I start building up on that, and I have my songs,
Okay. What's a polyrhythm? I don't know what that is.
Well, when you're playing, you play with both hands. Mm-hmm. Now, a polyrhythm is when your right hand plays something different from your left hand.
Oh.
Yes.
That would seem complicated for a boy like me. Is that something that takes a while for people to pick up?
Well, if you have a good teacher, well...
That's why you come to the workshops this weekend.
Well, it will look so easy. But it is, you're right. It doesn't come easy to everyone. But when you get it, I mean, it's so wonderful because out of that, you're going to hear different melodies in between coming, and there you are accompanying yourself. So
interesting. I want to ask Betsy. Betsy, when you first started learning, was getting the polyrhythm thing difficult? You're a sound person, so maybe it wasn't, but was it difficult for you, or was it something that you found right away?
It depends. There's some things that come really easy to people who grew up with the music. And if something is in like a traditional Western rhythm, it's much, much easier for non-Africans to get. But some of them, the traditional tunes, are more in threes, and and a lot of them are like a 3/4, and we often will hear them in 4, but they're really in 3, and it can break your brain.
And you're talking about, like, when you're saying 3 and 4, you're talking about the measure, right? Or how many notes per measure?
Yeah.
And we typically, in America, you hear a lot of that Western music, which is there's 4 beats into every measure, right?
It's just fascinating. I
Yeah.
always tell people, sometimes you watch a group of people learning this, and you can see the steam coming out of their brains.
They
But
just
it's
can't process, right?
part of why we all love playing is because it works your brain in a way you can't even imagine. It's so satisfying, even though that there's sometimes great friction.
Well, I've always felt like hand-eye coordination is difficult for some folks, especially, present company included, and to find out how to, that's why I thought I could never be a drummer, right? Because I feel like drummers also have to have that idea of different sets of rhythms and where they come from. And I'm more of a melody guy, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah. But that's so fascinating. So when you begin to teach, Mike, if it's a complete beginner, what's the first step?
Well, when I work with kids,
Yeah.
from young age to the older
The
old
older
guys,
kids at heart, like
older
me.
kids at heart, and I've got experience now to be able to break down some of those skills so that somebody can understand. So, for example, if I'm teaching a new traditional song, I'll get a line where everyone is playing at the same time.
Oh,
that
okay.
rhythm. So we get comfortable with that, and then I'll now break away, because the marimba ensemble is made up of four different voices. You get the soprano, the tenor, the baritone, and the bass. So each one has got a role to play. Soprano, the melody, the tune, and then the tenors play the chords, also the broken chords, polyrhythms there, and then the baritone. That's the playful guy in the ensemble. He's always mucking around and playing, adding color to the ensemble.
I see.
And then you get obviously the bass that's going to keep everyone together. So it's important to have a good arrangement of the piece, and then when you teach it, get everyone comfortable, and then start breaking down the different parts, and then we put everything together.
Now, before we see the marimbas in the background on the stream, so I know people are itching to hear a little bit. We're going to hear something. But last question for you is, I guess I'm thinking about like this education aspect, because it's a big part of your life.
Oh,
and you
definitely.
come here to Juneau to teach
Yeah.
folks. And why is education of the marimba so important to you?
I mean, I've so many stories to tell about the important value that marimba has brought to the kids I've taught.
Yeah.
I mean, you get some kids that struggle in class, they're not good in sport, but when they come to marimba, because it's a hands-on lesson, you're not reading music, it's taught by rote, they come out of their shells, and really, I've had parents really complimenting me to say, my son has changed, my daughter has changed, what have you done to him? So I think marimba really plays an important role in confidence building, and even the guys that play sport, first team rugby, I don't know, you know rugby?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. They come to play marimba, they're big muscles, and I have to control, don't break my keys. But I mean, it shows that, I mean, it just brings joy to, you don't have to be very musical. You can discover that, oh, I can really play a musical instrument.
Oh, that's so fantastic. Well, let's hear a little something. I'll give the details again while you guys get set up over there at the marimbas. So go ahead and hop over there.
Oh, okay.
And this is Mike Sibanda. He's here from Zimbabwe, and he is teaching marimba workshops. They're going to be happening this weekend. It's a 2-day workshop twice over the coming days. So Saturday from 2 to 4. And Sunday from 2 to 4 is one 2-day workshop. You can attend one or both. Betsy recommends you come to the first one if you can only make one. And then the workshop will repeat on Tuesday, Wednesday, and the 19th and 20th at 5 p.m. And again, it'll be a 2-day workshop there. And to get interested or get on the list or figure out where the details are, or if you can't make those and you want to go to the Friday night private concert, just all you got to do is email Betsy. Email Betsy at junomarimbas@gmail.com. She'll give you the time, the place, the what, the where, and get your name on the list and all that good stuff. So let me turn up the sound microphone over there. We'll get the video on you guys properly so we can see you. And then what's that? Yeah, we're going to play it out. And we'll just enjoy a little marimbas from Mike Sibanda and Betsy Sims here on Juneau Afternoon. Take it away, folks.
Right. We're going to play Pata Pata by the late Miriam Makeba. I'm sure most of you have heard about her, famous South African singer. Pata
And
Pata.
Mike taught this to our band too, so we're working on it as well. All right?
Yep.
Mike Sibanda on the marimbas along with Betsy Sims. Goodness, geez, for being here. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. You're listening to Juneau Afternoon on KTOO.
You are listening to KTOO's Tlingit Word of the Week. This week's word comes from Keishi Besikuli, and the word this week is gagun.
Gagun.
That means sun. And here's a sentence.
Gagun is iti yikt o wiqach.
The rabbit is sitting in the sun. Let's hear it again.
Gagun.
Sun. Gunesh Jish to Juneau Lance Twitchell, Goldbelt Heritage Foundation, and the University of Alaska Southeast for this audio.
Keishi Besikuli is Kokhetan and a child of a Yenyedi man. She is from Daislin, Teslin, and grew up spending time in Teslin and around Teslin Lake. She earned a master's degree in Indigenous Languages and Linguistics from Simon Fraser University and interviewed many speakers for the Hashagun language series. She is currently translating projects for the children of the Taku Society.
Tune in next week for another Tlingit Word of the Week from KTOO.
Once upon a midnight sun, I begged it all away. I fell to my knees and I closed my eyes to pray, and I said, oh, alright. Oh, let it go. Magic came and went away and tore this place in two. I came running from the north to fill the space by you, and I said, ooh, let it in. Ooh, let it in. And maybe it's true, I'm just a little lost, but I'd be nowhere without it all. Oh, time and again I get lost in the wind, and I follow it down to dust. I splash in the night with my eyes open wide, and I ask my heart to trust. And I said, oh, it's alright. Oh, baby, it's alright. And maybe it's true, I'm just a little lost, but I'd be nowhere without it all. Oh, time and again I get lost in the wind, and I follow it down to dust. I splash in the night with my eyes open wide, and I ask my heart to trust. And I said, oh, it's alright. Oh, baby, it's alright.
Little Dara Relatos with her song Midnight Sun that she performed here live on the red carpet stage during Folk Fest earlier this year. A fantastic local singer-songwriter, and wanted to play that one today. Okay, this is Juneau Afternoon from KTOO. Welcome to Garden Talk. I'm here with UAF Extension Agent and Associate Professor Darren Snyder. And this week, I think, Darren, we should probably start with a major event that has happened here in Juneau, the glacier outburst flooding that happened this morning, actually. And how, I guess we can start with, like, if I'm a gardener and I have flooding, what am I starting to think about? What do I need to think about? What do I need to do? Where do I begin? I guess it was just, where do I begin?
Right. Yeah. I mean, because I guess flooding in a way isn't too new for Juneau. We get plenty of water, and so our gardens are used to having a whole lot of water. And we'll probably actually recover pretty quickly if you just are thinking about the water component of this. But the thing that we're having to consider is what's coming with that water, and the water that's coming, right out of the basin there and coming down the river. You'd assume that it's probably just fresh, clean water, but there are some things upstream, especially once we start getting further down into the valley and then entering the neighborhoods as well.
What kind of stuff is in there?
So there's what we're dealing with nowadays every day, but there's also some historical mining that's gone on up in the valley. That there's various dredging that's gone on, and there's a potential for metals that have come through and been dislodged and would then deposit per se into wherever this water is settling. Also, all kinds of just the chemicals of modern day life, the petrochemicals, anything that's such as oils or solvents or pesticides, and then also kind of the more yucky stuff biologically, bacteria and viruses, and other parasites and things like that that can come with feces, either human or animal. Some of those things could be of concern too.
Oh, wow. That's a lot. So what do I do about that?
Well, if you are, or if you know anybody who does have food plants that they have had exposed to any of this water, then essentially the bottom line is that it should not be consumed. And it's a really sad truth. All the work that I know that goes into the gardening and growing of food plants here, that they really are not, they cannot be known to be safe, essentially. There's a lot of information on this from other places that have experienced floods, especially farmland. That's where a lot of extension services throughout the nation have dealt with this much more than us here in Alaska. And I do want to give credit to Becky Fletcher, who compiled some various extension type of materials for the community garden last year and helped kind of bump the knowledge base forward, and so that we're more ready this year with some of this information. But, the gardeners can have questions about, is my soil contaminated? Can I eat what came in contact with it? What about next year? What about like my rhubarb plants or berry plants from and then what about other materials like bags of soil or compost or tools and such that have been exposed? The thing is that it's too expensive and too kind of wily and unknown, too many unknowns to really kind of test our way out of this kind of thing. We can't just go, oh, let's just, put it in a magic machine and tell me whether my soil is safe or not. So, there has to be some protocols, and so I can share those with you, with us quickly. Yeah, so essentially, again, anything that's come in contact with the water, we need to assume that it's not going to be able to be edible. And hopefully folks have gotten their garlic out of the ground already and starting to cure. And even, if you haven't, then that garlic needs to be disposed of, sadly, and it can't even be replanted. So you're going to need to get some fresh garlic to replant. And as far as replanting goes, the general protocols, they do vary. Science is a little bit messy sometimes, right? Because, all these biological activities are variable according to temperature and moisture and everything else. But the general protocols are that after a period of weeks, so a couple months, we should be fine to be planting back into the soil as far as the biological concerns go. So doing a little bit of math, if one was able to acquire new planting garlic, then that could be planted mid-October and be just fine.
So that's interesting because we're talking about like if the water has things in it, feces or other natural chemicals or from the mining, etc. How are you saying that eventually that will cycle through if it affects the ground and my soil that I already have there? Do I have to replace my entire soil area, or do I wait for it to cycle through over these couple months? And is there a way to test it, I guess?
Right. And there are, to answer your question, there are ways of testing it, but they're very expensive.
Okay.
And so we're talking about like $100 a test for metals, and that just gives you, kind of
for
the
like
first
one
idea. Yeah, for
wow.
one single analysis. And so the general thing is that we're fortunate here that we don't have like some Dow chemicals, no offense to Dow, but they produce a lot of chemicals. But if we had a chemical plant upstream and it had overwashed its containment tanks, then we would have a much different situation.
Right.
But this water is coming through, as we can see from all the pictures, and those of us who are those folks who are in the neighborhood can see that it's rushing through mostly. But it is kind of coming through everybody's garages and the roads and everything else. So there are some unknowns there, and so in some ways, dilution is a solution to pollution. That famous, 1970s or what have you saying, it does play a role here. So at least with some of the chemical and metal, the concerns about those. If I was thinking that, we have an actual point source pollution of a specific chemical or lead or something like that would be of a major, really pointing at that, then we would be in a different situation. But right now, it's mysterious. It's like there are no specific contaminant to point to. So just generally, if someone has a garden bed and they want to try and it's been inundated, then adding more soil to it would be a way of diluting it. Also, specifically adding organic matter. So we have excellent compost available here locally. So if we go and get some of that compost and add it to our garden beds, add an extra amount of seaweed. We should be adding seaweed every year anyways. Just keep on adding that organic matter. Then organic matter specifically binds to metals as well. So that's a good thing. At the same time as it's going to be kind of just increasing and diluting the overall load that's in there. And the things as far as time goes, I was specifically pointing to the biological, the microorganisms that would reduce within the matter of time.
I see.
Compared to other like chemicals and such. So those are some of the basic things that folks are going to want to be doing in addition to these things to your soil is also with your soil, you want to make sure the pH is up. So that's when we add lime, and the pH is how acid your soil is. You want it to be close to neutral, so 6.5 to 7, and that is at a level that if there are metals in our soils, and there are many naturally occurring metals in our soils, then it makes them less available for the plants to pick up. Mm-hmm. Also, just generally washing off soil, especially over the next few months, making sure your kids aren't sticking it in their mouths as much as usual, and cleaning tools. And then as a general practice, just if you are in this area where it's so affected, consider planting crops such as fruit trees, something that's going to be up above the water in the future. Maybe even containers that you can move yourself, that you could actually get up and out of the way when it comes to flood stage. And then, as much as I love edible plants, maybe look more towards ornamental plants for your gardens.
If you're in that area.
Yeah.
It was funny, too. We're basically out of time today, Darren. Thank you so much, Gonna Cheech. But I did notice, too, in some of the videos I was watching that people were actually planting things in the HESCO barriers.
I love that.
So, at least beautify their backyard a little bit.
Yeah, let's do that next year.
Yeah, so it's
call
kind
me
of
up.
funny.
Let's do it. I'll help you out.
Darren Snyder for Garden Talk. Thank you so much for joining us today. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Boston.
That will do it for today's Juneau Afternoon. Stay safe out there, everybody. Juneau Afternoon airs Wednesday through Friday at 3 p.m. right here on KTOO Juneau 104.3 and KAUK Juneau Akbay 91.7. You can follow the show online at ktoo.org/Juneau Afternoon. You can also find live stream archives on KTOO's YouTube page. Our theme music is by Indian Agent. Programming support for Juneau Afternoon comes from listeners and viewers like you, never more important than now, and Alaska Airlines Club 49, Hanson Gress, and Heritage Coffee Roasting Company. Juneau Afternoon is a project of the KTOO Arts and Culture team. I'm Boston Christopher, producer and host of the program, with help today from Aaron Tripp. Gwyneth Cheese.